If you struggle with shyness or social anxiety, check out our free No BS training course with actual useful advice you can do from home. None of that just get out there nonsense. The link is in the description below. For now, let's get to today's question.
The question, what are the early signs of an anxiety disorder in a child? Answer by Sharon Talbot. Since young children, and even many adults, don't know how to identify or express anxiety, some symptoms might be crying for no apparent reason, hyperventilating, actually, a sign of panic, outbursts of anger, such as shrieking, yelling or even hitting things, hiding somewhere, such in a closet or under a bed, holding some object of comfort such as a doll, a toy or even a family pet, rigidity of posture and limbs or conversely, curling up in a ball, flinching when touched or refusing to be picked up, change in appetite, eating too little or too much, sleep patterns or even self-harm, hitting themselves on the head or elsewhere, reverting in certain areas to a baby state, such as toilet training, soiling themselves, thumb sucking, tantrums, using gestures rather than words, sudden bursts of activity such as running, unexplained illness such as severe headache, migraine, stomach pain, refusal to join in family activities or avoidance of friends and school, sensitivity to light or sounds, which may actually be the causes of anxiety, along with motion sickness. Beating up other children almost always a sign that the anxiety is due to abuse at home or elsewhere. Many psychologists now recognize that these signs are often indicators of some form of abuse to the child and can even predict or indicate PTSD. Any child demonstrating these should be examined physically and seen by a qualified child psychologist. Answer by Kara Kramer. Every child feels anxious, but when anxiety results in self-destructive or counterintuitive behavior on a regular basis, it has crossed into the territory of a disorder. That's when it's time to make the anxiety manageable in the long run. The symptoms are similar in people of all ages because these habits stick with kids and don't go away when they grow up. Some behavioral patterns include avoidant behavior. After showing interest in certain activities or objects, a child suddenly drops the interest, making excuses like "I didn't really want to do it anyways" or "it wasn't worth minor inconvenience that was probably conjured on the spot." When I was 9 years old, I wanted to join the school choir. But I was anxious about changing my routine, especially on my own, by going to the music room during lunch instead of outside. So I didn't go, and told myself I don't want to give up playing outside during lunch to join the choir anyways. Thing is, the excuse was completely untrue. I did want to sing at lunchtime, and I was pretty damn good at it back then. Puberty made me extremely tone deaf, but I used to have an angelic and pitch-perfect voice before that. It was something I loved doing, and anxiety convinced me to give it up. This can also display itself as low self-confidence, with a child or teen avoiding a desired activity under the excuse "I'm just not good at it, and practice isn't making me any better." The teens and adults do the same things, although they may have more experience with making those excuses. They can even keep others from realizing what they want, which can make denying something look like a lack of interest rather than anxious avoidance. Symptoms of illness. In spite of medical tests showing good health, anxiety can manifest itself as physical symptoms. It can convince people that they're actually sick, or that they have something wrong with their lungs, digestion, heart, or anything. The kid who is sick several times a week? Although the symptoms may not be fake, it might be anxiety rather than a physical ailment behind those symptoms. Always rule out physical problems beforehand by going to the doctor. Not knowing whether or not you're sick can exacerbate the symptoms of anxiety and can even make it look like an illness is progressively worsening. When I was in my early teens, I used to wake up to my heart racing, discomfort in my chest. When it got to the point where I had palpitations for about 23 hours every morning, I had to go to the doctor to make sure it wasn't something wrong with my body so I could figure out why my body felt the way it did. Only then could realize that I was just startled by the alarm clock, and nothing is wrong with my body for reacting this way. I haven't had a heart palpitation since I learned why my body was reacting to anxiety this way. Note that people with anxiety disorders are more likely to have a low pain tolerance, as they are quicker to believe that something of concern is happening to them when they experience physical discomfort. Some forms of anxiety even involve constant trips to a doctor or hospital, in which the patient insists that the doctors are overlooking something while the doctors insist that all tests have come back A-OK. Self-harm that worsens with anxiety. Self-harm is always a cause for concern, and it can start surprisingly young. It can be nail-biting, skin-picking, scratching oneself, pinching oneself, putting oneself in danger, anything that causes pain or damage to the body that doesn't have a constructive cause. This can start as early as the toddler years, maybe sooner. That's when my lifelong habit of ripping at my lips began before I had a stable memory. I also bit my nails, but my mother nipped that in the butt when I was a child, but at 21 years old I still rip my lips. The sooner you identify anxiety in a child, the less likely it is that it will become a lifelong battle. Good luck. Answer by Megan Stevens. I had a lot of very weird fears growing up, some of which became phobias, then compulsions started popping up. If your child is exhibiting compulsions, it means they've been dealing with anxiety for a while. But there may be early signs, like for example, I used to ask a lot of questions about the things that brought me anxiety. If your child asks a lot of questions like, is such and such dangerous, or, can this kill you, or things like, do alligators live around here, do tornadoes happen around here, can I be struck by lightning at any time, how can I avoid quicksand, etc. These questions may seem very silly to an adult, but a child has no concept of regional hazards, or statistical improbability, and things like that. That being said, I also didn't have Google as a kid, so I can't imagine a child would ask mom and dad these questions with the internet so readily available. Maybe monitor their search history for questions pertaining to danger and mortality. As far as I know, it's uncommon for children to be concerned with these things if there is no anxiety disorder present.